I call the honourable member Julianne Genter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the second reading of the Taxation, Livestock Valuation, Assets Expenditure and Remedial Matters Bill. Tax policy is an opportunity to get better outcomes, to get smarter outcomes, and the Green Party tax and monetary policy is precisely that, to use tax policy to encourage productive behaviours that are sustainable, that are good, like work, like certain types of consumption, and to discourage those things which aren't good for society, which increase pollution and increase congestion and other ills. So this bill was an opportunity to get a reasonably good outcome from tax policy. Most of the proposals in it are pretty minor. They're just tightening up loopholes. And during my second reading speech, I'd really like to focus on one opportunity that has definitely been missed out of this bill, and that was the opportunity to extend fringe benefit tax to employer-provided car parks in the Auckland and Wellington CBDs. And unfortunately, we didn't get to have a very informed and rational debate on this particular issue, and that's what I really regret, because there was actually a report to the New Zealand Transport Agency, which was published in earlier this year, February 2013, entitled Company Cars and Fringe Benefit Tax, Understanding the Impacts on Strategic Transport Targets. And this report went through and thoroughly analyzed what the different travel trends are, how many trips are by company car, how many are resulting in an employer-provided car park, and what those incentives of employer-provided car parks, the impact that that has on people's travel choices, the way that that increases congestion, the way that that undermines our investments in public transport, and the foregone revenue from that. And unfortunately, when this bill came to Select Committee, no one on the Select Committee, nobody speaking to the Select Committee, not even the officials from IRD, were apparently aware of this report and the research that had gone into it. So it wasn't possible for us to have a debate on, using the information that had been collated by researchers on what the impacts of extending fringe benefit tax to car parking, employer-provided car parking in the CBD could be, and how that could be done in a way that would achieve the best outcome for businesses, for Auckland and Wellington, for our transport investment, and especially for people living in Auckland and Wellington CBDs. So that was unfortunate. And then on top of that, we had some submitters, the Fringe Benefit Tax Action Group, who came to the Select Committee with some quite surprising figures about the compliance cost of extending fringe benefit tax to car parks. And their calculations about the compliance cost, which have been referred to by previous speakers, were based on assumptions around that, first of all, that the fringe benefit tax would apply to 200,000 car parks, that it would require 110 minutes per car park per year, which is pretty unlikely, really, when you think about it. But the worst part is that there aren't 200,000 car parks. We have the numbers on employer-provided car parks in Auckland and Wellington CBD. There's only 24,000 car parks, employer-provided car parks in Auckland CBD. And so this estimate of compliance cost was done on an assumption of 200,000 car parks, and that's 10 times as many. There's even fewer car parks in Wellington CBD, of course, than there are in Auckland CBD. The vast majority of people traveling to work in Auckland and Wellington CBD do not travel by car. 70% of the people who work in Wellington CBD do not travel by car. They come in by public transport, walking, or cycling. Over half the people who travel into Auckland CBD at the moment travel by public transport, walking, or cycling. And so the issue with the employer-provided car parks not being taxed as a benefit is that it's unfair to the majority of people in New Zealand, especially those working in Auckland and Wellington CBD, who do not receive this benefit. And they are taxed on their income. They would be taxed on their public transport passes if their employers provided them to them. The value, the very conservative value of a car park in Auckland CBD is $2,725 a year. Now, the value of an annual public transport pass, all stages, on average, is $2,700. So the subsidy for people to drive alone into Auckland CBD is greater than the value of offering a public transport pass to people traveling into Auckland CBD. So let's get back to the fundamentals. And the purpose of fringe benefit tax is not primarily to raise revenue. It's to ensure that employers and others aren't trying to avoid paying tax by providing benefits, which result in distortions. And the purpose of extending fringe benefit tax to car parks was to achieve greater horizontal tax equity. But the primary reason would be to get smarter transport outcomes. And the best way to get smarter transport outcomes is to remove the unintentional subsidies that exist to people to drive alone to work in Auckland and Wellington CBD. And there was some allegations that extending fringe benefit tax to car parks would disadvantage workers, people who work shifts, who couldn't possibly take public transport, and people on low incomes. But the reality is that the vast majority of people driving to work in Auckland and Wellington CBD are on high incomes. So to continue to subsidize car parks is actually a regressive move, because it takes away resources that could otherwise be put to the general public of New Zealand. It takes it away from them and says, no, we're going to let people who are earning over $100,000 a year in Auckland and Wellington CBD continue to drive alone in their company cars and clog up the roads, rather than using our resources in an efficient way and making sure that the prices are direct. So ultimately, this bill was a lost opportunity to have a debate. Now, it's true that the way that the fringe benefit tax was proposed to be extended to car parks wasn't probably the most efficient way. And we in the Green Party would have wanted to see, and we did ask officials for some investigation on how this could apply fairly to car parks throughout the urban areas wherever their value is high, as it does in Australia. So instead of being limited to one geographic region, which was arbitrarily chosen, it could have applied to car parks once their value gets above a certain threshold. And that would have ensured that there wasn't the unintended consequences of incentivizing development outside of the CBD, where it would be harder to provide high-quality public transport. And another important thing that the Green Party would have liked to seen were changes to the proposals so that it wouldn't apply to shift workers and people on low incomes, cleaners who are coming into Auckland, for example, to clean at Sky City. And there's no reason that it should apply to them. Ultimately, they were just the minority, and we think that those issues could have been dealt with if we had had an informed and substantial debate. But we weren't able to have that debate, in part because we didn't have the information available to us at the Select Committee. The government and the Labour Party were quite quick to jump on the numbers provided by the Fringe Benefit Action Group, who provided quite erroneous numbers based on 200,000 car parks when there's only 24,000 employer-provided car parks in Auckland CBD. Ultimately, this is about choice, and we want to make sure that the tax system is fair and that it rewards people for making choices that consume fewer resources. And that is a key tenet of Green Party tax policy, is to make sure that the tax system is fair, that it does not subsidize behavior that results in greater pollution, greater congestion, greater health costs. I'm just going to read a short section from this report on the benefits of addressing parking distortions. So, employer-provided parking is a benefit available only to those who drive, and it has a greater value in areas where parking prices are high. Those who benefit most in dollar value from free parking at work are those who also drive when congestion is worst. In addition, most valuable land used for parking is in the CBD, and if primarily used for employer-provided parking, is an unproductive use of CBD land. While it may not be a direct tax policy to subsidise people to drive and park in the CBD of New Zealand's 4 main cities, by ignoring the taxable value of employer-provided parking, it is a policy by omission. So in other words, it is the policy of this government to subsidise people to drive into the CBD at peak time, thereby undermining our investments in public transport and worsening congestion while foregoing revenue from high-income earners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member, Maggie